Appamada's programs and facilities are supported through your generosity. Your support really does make a huge difference. You'll find a link for contributions on the website at appamada.org/contribute. Thank you so much.
You may have noticed that we started just a few minutes early, which is not customary. But it appeared that everyone was happy to be here, and they were here online and also inside. So rather than being pressed for time, I thought we give ourselves a little space. Thank you for being here. It's kind of amazing. Not kind of. It's amazing to be here. I made myself aware of something very right here at the last moment as we were preparing, that I have become so accustomed to only being online, so that I have one of these things in front of me, and it's up high, and I'm looking right at the camera, and my notes are right on my eye level. And now it's like a different thing, and I have a computer and the window, so my apologies for that. I want to be with you. And I want to read, just for a moment, the few sentences that we sent out when we invited you. I don't know if you're any at all like me, but if I see an intensive or something, a retreat that I'd like to go to, I choose by the teacher, and then whatever it is they're talking about. and we go to great lengths to make sure that we make it inviting in certain ways, but you often don't read it. And even if you did, that's fine. This is a reminder. So this is what we sent out. And we're standing on these people's shoulders because you've been teaching about Tori Zenche's Bodhisattva vow, teaching from that piece. The Bodhisattva vow is the foundation of the Mahayana practice of Buddhism as expressed through our Zen lineage. So that's a very foundational sentence. The Bodhisattva vow is the foundation of the Mahayana practice of Buddhism through our Zen lineage. We vow to live and be lived for the benefit of all beings as we realize our profound inner being with everything and everyone. This realization extends our understanding of beings to include all parts of ourselves, which make up the constructed and vital self we call personality. To embody the Bodhisattva vow is to open our minds and hearts, as Avalokiteshvara does, as she hears the cries of the world. She opens herself to the world and hears the cries of the world. It also means, as Dogen said, to take the backward step and turn your light inward and to meet the cries there. Like the breath in Zazen, we move inward and outward, inner world, outer world, the unbending flow of compassion and wisdom as the world. So that was the invitation. So you're still in the right place? You need to go, okay. Back and forth, inside and out, and back and forth. 4.5 years it's been since we sat next to each other in this room talking about it. That's a surprise. Inside and out, online and in person, here and there, everywhere, always. So tonight, what I'd like to do is provide sort of an overview of how we might envision the week, but not just from a technical point of view, but also from a body. You kind of set the stage, as it were. So the practices, as you know, of a bodhisattva are the paramitas, the qualities But the lived bodhisattva experience are the Brahmaviharas, or the immeasurables. So we're going to start there. I'm going to ask you to begin your practice now. Here's the way I'm going to do it. You know, the paramitas include generosity, ethics or morality, vitality and spiritual energy, and also patience, meditation or concentration, and wisdom. Those are the ones and I kind of said them in pairs. Sometimes we kind of like that. So as you came in earlier today, maybe for the for the head student ceremony, or even this evening if you've not been in, or you wandered in yesterday when Peg and I were working, and there we were, like always in the back. Here's the question. The first paramita is generosity. When you walked in, did you feel a generous spirit? Either from yourself or from others? Both ways, giving, receiving. There's some generosity here. Bodhisattva practice. The second of the paramitas is, morality or ethics. Usually the precepts fall in here. Is this kind of place and the kind of community and the kind of meeting full of good character, possibility, respect, kindness, care? I know it's not only that, but do you feel that? So there is some of this basic goodness. The third, vitality, spiritual energy. I know you felt the energy of connecting, right? You see someone, and for the first time in so long, you go, you reach out your arms to cover her to touch, or you're going to bow, but there's actually someone in front of you. The energy of anticipation, but also inspiration. An upwelling of our aspirations. Did you feel that? So that practice is happening already. Patience. Are you willing to allow the time and space this week for the unfolding of our shared practice? To meet what is arising with some patience and curiosity in yourself and with others when they irritate you or we inevitably fail you. Do you feel the spirit of patience? You've waited a long time for us to come back.
Supreme patience.
I know. Meditation or concentration, number 5. Are these first moments of meeting and just sitting for a few moments, just coming into this room again, even if you're online, remembering or seeing? Are these first few moments of meeting inviting more patience, like a settling, a focusing of your heart and mind in the present? You feel any of that? It's like, okay. And how does that connect with the final prajna or wisdom? Are you now able, in just these few minutes, maybe to see things a little more clearly with a little more embodied immediacy? Nothing big, just, we are here. This is real. It's happening. So, do you have a sense right now? Could you actually say, apparently we are settling into the practices of a bodhisattva vow, which are the 6 paramitas? Doesn't have to be something amazing or obscure. This is what we're doing. And as we do it, the qualities of the bodhisattva, the 4 Brahmaviharas, which are as loving kindness, compassion, equanimity, sympathetic joy. I'm going to ask you some practice questions also to turn your mind inward a little bit. And I'm going to start with sympathetic joy, because that seems to be in abundance right now. Did you notice a sense of joy as you met each other? Including watching the brightness of others being met? Even if you're online, if you see people brighten up and we brighten up as we turn toward you. So sympathetic joy is here, isn't it? Not only are we practicing the bodhisattva practices, but the qualities of bodhisattvas are starting to move here. Equanimity. When you notice this, how did your body react? Your heart and your mind, did you notice any sense of relaxation or ease? Maybe some spaciousness as you came here. You may have felt other things too. Did you notice some of that? Can I get an amen? Is it? Loving kindness, loving kindness. It's not difficult for me to feel this sort of basic friendliness and loveliness, being together. And I would say the feeling of remembering what it's like to fall in love, really, if I can say that. As we just encounter each other's presence, whether it's here or I see a face online and I'm touched. And that, of course, calls for compassion, the fourth. Can you feel your heart opening? Even a little. Were you willing to kind of lean in to meet what began to stir as you came this evening? And can you feel the surge of care for the others, for other people? So just in these first few minutes, if you've reflected on these things, turned your light inward, and if you've listened to others and seen them, we realize we're engaged in the basic bodhisattva practices already, and those practices are bearing fruit. And it's an important thing to remember. It's not some distant thing. This is what we're doing now with our bodies and with each other. And since these are both the qualities of a bodhisattva's living and the practices of bodhisattva's entire life, we support and encourage them with a vow. So that's how it's kept going. Even with all the things that have happened with the pandemic and with changes and Peg and I moving and other things, all these things that happen, which have been difficult and problematic and stumbles and opportunities and beautiful things. What sustains us is a vow. Okay? So let's intone, so we use our bodies, let's say our usual bodhisattva vow, all the way through. Ready? And one of the reasons that I want to do it is because, man, what I have missed in hearing other voices. And when you're online, you can hear more voices that way. If you're just online, you don't get the congregation, but it's different to hear it, isn't it? So please do it with us. Here we go. Beings are numberless, I vow to free them. Delusions are inexhaustible, I vow to end them. Karma gates are boundless, I vow to enter them. Buddha's way is unsurpassable, I vow to embody it. Beings are numberless, we vow to free them. Delusions are inexhaustible, we vow to end them. Dharma gates are boundless, we vow to enter them. Buddha's way is unsurpassable, we vow to embody it. Beings are numberless, this vow frees them all. Delusions are inexhaustible, this vow ends them all. Dharma gates are boundless, this vow enters them all. Buddha's way is unsurpassable, this vow embodies it. And could I get a bell? So you've all noticed, reflected on, confirmed and affirmed that you're practicing the basic practices of a bodhisattva together. That those practices are bearing fruit right now. It's not something in the future. And you've now used your voice to express in this small little house, temple, the vow that sustains those practices and those qualities. To liberate beings, to go beyond delusion, to turn toward each opportunity for further awakening that life offers you, and to continually embody the Buddha's example of an awakened life. That's what you just vowed. And that final line, embody, which was, I'm so glad that changed that. I was looking up the definition of embody, not that I didn't know what it meant, but I wanted to see what it said. I often do this. To give a concrete form to express, personify, or exemplify in concrete form, to bring something into form. The Bodhisattva way is just like an idea, unless we bring it into form, into one's body. And to move into one's body as a profound space of practice to experience the felt sense of embodiment. So there's this enacting to make it real in the world and to awaken to the felt sense of embodiment. So once again, we're looking at these two sides. So having affirmed that this vow is a relational aspiration because of the way our brilliant teacher here changed the three, we realize that this aspiration of the Bodhisattva vow doesn't just include, it requires each other. It's a requirement. And having given voice to this vast mystery and profound potential of the act of embodiment itself, then we can take the backward step. We know where we're situated, turn our light inward up to those four aspects of the Bodhisattva vow. So I'm going to say them a different way now. At first I said, to liberate beings, go beyond delusion, turn toward every opportunity, and embody the awakened life. And I'm going to say it more in questioning. First, did you feel even a bit more liberated by this opening experience? Remember, the vow is to liberate all beings, not just beings. Was there any more, a little bit of liberation? How did you know as you checked inside? Are any parts of you more freed up from their extreme positions or burdensome places? Even just a tiny bit. Second line. Just as we're going through this together, did your habitual delusions, and I know you all have them, so do I, did your habitual ways of seeing the world soften, in abeyance, even for a moment, when Joan rang the bell or when we chanted together? Can you feel yourself like unblending from some of your habitual perceptions or perspectives that feel like you, but suddenly you feel this little bit of space? Because we begin to see they're not the liberating expression of the natural state. Oh, these are constructions. Bless you. Third line. By stepping into the Zendo, by taking your seat, by answering these questions, reflecting and voicing your vow, were you able to step through the open gate of the moment into the opportunity we all offered each other by arriving as spiritual friends? Do you feel yourself stepping into something? And do you feel a willingness to turn toward each other and toward your inner world equally, with curiosity, patience, with humility, with care? And lastly, that embodied line. What was it like to embody, even for a moment, this way of being together? All of this. And how do these embodied practices nourish and encourage our true nature, Buddha nature, whatever you want to call it, the Buddha's way? And you'll be answering that question for a week. Okay. And we're going to enter this week of focused practice together, so it's a good idea to begin to orient ourselves to all of this. So, how's it going so far? It's good to actually reflect deeply, not just listen. It's like we're practicing, and the practice is moving here. I want to go to Troy Zenji's Bodhisattva vow that we're using as the focus for a moment, because they're embedded in it is a segment that people stumble on. If by chance they should turn against us becomes that one. So we're going to get to that. That's why I'm going in gently. To give us the space and context about what this is all about, okay? But let's, oh gosh, you don't have your chant books with you. It'd be nice if you did. Do you have, but those of you that have moved,
I can grab it.
would you mind?
Yeah.
Let's just say it together. We're gonna chant it every day, but we have good time. That's okay, you can read on.
Gradually, they've disappeared, the chant book. We have to print more.
And if you don't have it, just, your neighbor will help you, I'm sure.
Here's one here.
Everybody has at least a friend you can
This
observe?
one we have to give back to Joel.
Okay, here. What page?
Keep her book.
Drawing.
Okay. But you need one. No, I got it. And those of you online, we send it to you. I hope you have it. And if you don't, listen up. We're just going to go through it. We'll be chanting it every day, so it'll start getting even more. Are you ready to go? Okay, here we go. When I, the student of the way, look at the form of the universe, all is the never-failing manifestation of the mysterious truth of the awakened life. In any event, in any moment, and in any place, none can be other than the marvelous revelation of its glorious light. This realization made our ancestors and teachers extend tender care with respectful hearts, even to such beings as birds and beasts. This realization teaches us that our daily food, drink, clothes, and protections of life are the warm flesh and blood, the merciful incarnation of the awakened one. Who can be ungrateful or not respectful, even to senseless things, not to speak of humans. Even though they may be fools, be warm and compassionate toward them. If by any chance they should turn against us, become sworn enemies and persecute us, we should sincerely bow down with humble language in the reverent understanding that they are the merciful messengers of the awakened one, who use devices to emancipate us from blind tendencies produced and accumulated upon ourselves by our own egoistic delusion and attachment through countless cycles of space and time. Then on each moment's flash of our thought, there will grow a lotus flower, and on each lotus flower will be revealed perfection, unceasingly manifest as our life, just as it is, right here and right now. May we extend this mind to all beings, so that we and the world together may attain maturity in the wisdom of the awakened life. So that will please. Just for good measure. So now, if you don't mind, and I apologize if I'm repeating anything, but we have people who haven't come to all of your Dharma talks too. And I'm not pulling from your talks particularly, but we're going to do a run through. Okay? So buckle your seatbelts. We're going to go through it just for a bit to orient ourselves to the territory, because we're going to have to come back to this central piece in different ways, from different perspectives through the week. We're not going to give you one thing. We're going to, it's like a koan. We're going to work with it, okay? But one thing to start with. Tori Zenji is telling us something personal. It's personal. He's not writing Zen philosophy or merely offering like general instructions. This is his vow. He's offering what he had realized and what this realization meant to him in his life. And now we're taking it up and saying, well, maybe in ours. And what you just affirmed and reflected on earlier, said, oh, like we're in this thing together. We're bodhisattvas also. So let's just go through and reflect on this just a little more, okay? The first little bit is one sentence, right? That first thing, let's say it again. When
I, a student of the way, look at the real form of the universe, all is a never-failing manifestation of the mysterious truth of the awakened life.
Okay. And so I'm gonna give you my personal reflection just as a start. Is that okay? I'm a student of life. And when I see most clearly, now and then, in those moments when I can see a little more clearly, on a good day, with a relatively spacious mind and open heart, I find that what I'm seeking most of the time is always and already right in front of me. Every time. Especially the right in front of me, especially when the me drops off, when it gets softer. So the world comes on its own terms. The mysterious truth is that I'm surprised every time I discover this again. He said he's a student of the way. He looks at the real form of the universe, and never failing, it's always right there. And that's the mysterious truth. Okay, the next little bit is one sentence again. Let's say it together. In any event, in any moment, in any place, none can be other than the marvelous revelation of its glorious light. And he's just like nudging a little more here. So I think, wow, he's saying this is something I can't escape. Not something that's far away that I am going to stretch for. In any event, in any moment, any place, nothing could be other than this. In moments when I soften my attachment to this me, this I, more of the mystery, it has more space to reveal itself. It's there anyway. What we are immersed in is the way. That's part of why I went through the paramitas and the brahmaviharas and you were saying, yeah. So it's too late now, you've already. What we're immersed in is the way. And noticing this lights things up in a pretty glorious way. A marvelous revelation of its glorious light. It's like, it really is. And we're kidding. So there's some realization that happens. And the next two sentences, which are the next two little parts, start with this realization. Both of them start with the same thing. Let's read the first one. This realization
made our ancestors and teachers extend tender care with respectful hearts, even to such beings as birds and beasts.
Our ancestors and teachers. We're not the first folks to notice this, and we're not going to be the last. We're not all that important, and we're completely necessary. Everything belongs. Everyone belongs. And this way of seeing that everything and everyone belongs, it naturally fills us with such gratitude. You know? I can see it on your faces, some of you. So why wouldn't you feel gratitude for everything? And what else does this realization do? What's next? This realization teaches us that our daily food, drink, clothes, and protections of life are the warm flesh and blood, the merciful incarnation of the awakened one. Everything is participating in this unfolding mystery. Always, everywhere, in every single way. The merciful incarnation of the awakened one sounds kind of highfalutin, It's like this life, this moment, this breath, life as it is. When he said this realization, he's talking about himself, teaches me, that our daily food, drink, clothes, and protections of life are the warm flesh and blood. It's like, okay, you go to Best Buy, you go to Warehouse, like H-E-B, here. That's the warm flesh and blood. Where else are you going to find it? Just in Zindo? The merciful incarnation, made manifest, incarnate, mercifully. It's kind of a powerful statement, isn't it? That we're being held, and by our practice we're holding this amazing thing. A phrase some of you heard me use because I just love it from the Franciscan Richard Rohr, a Catholic priest. He says, and through our practice, we become a riverbed of mercy. Not the river, the riverbed. We become the vessel through which this mercy flows. If we're not blocking it. But it's there anyway, even the blocking is part of it. Then he starts to get irritating. Next. Ready? Here he says, so if you bought all of this, we have, it sounds pretty good, huh? Ready? Who can be
ungrateful or not respectful, even to senseless things, not to speak of humans.
Even though
they may be fools, be warm and compassionate toward them.
Okay, now he's pushing. Because we have preferences, we often miss the opportunity to appreciate that everything is participating in the mystery of the awakened life. Because we start dividing it up. There's the good part, there's the bad part, the part I don't want to look at, the part I'm going to ignore. And now we start parsing it out, and it's just a reflection of our own mind. It's the mind. And not the big mind. There isn't some other life. There's not some other life you could actually have. This is the one you have, and the only one you're going to have, the only one we have together. And there's not some better place where it's going to be different. Not in Chicago, not in Hawaii, not at San Francisco Zen Center, not in San Diego, not in Japan, not anywhere. This is our life. This is the one we have. And there are only other options when we cling to our opinions and our perspectives. And that clinging to our opinions and perspectives is included too. Those parts of us that get scared, those parts of us that long, that's included too. Who could not be ungrateful, not respectful, even to all those parts? Because that's part of everything has a place. And I'm going to talk about that a little more in just a moment. Okay, so once again, we're just kind of hitting the high spots here, but we're not messing around, right? Okay, now the really difficult one. This is the long, that's one sentence, the if by chance. Here we go. If by chance they should turn against us, become sworn enemies and persecute us, we should sincerely bow down with humble language and the reverent understanding that they are the merciful messengers of the awakened one, who use devices to emancipate us from blind tendencies produced and accumulated upon ourselves by our own egoistic delusion and attachment through countless cycles of space and time. Oh, wow. So in case we missed what Troy Zenji is trying to tell us, he ups the ante and offers us a tough challenge to help us realize that the awakened heart and mind are much more vast and inclusive than we thought. He's not telling us that we should be happy that bad things happen, or that we should welcome abuse. That's not what he's saying. We'll go further into this. He's saying there are things that are going to come to you that will show you where your limits are, and show you where you still hold and cling. But our awakened heart and mind is really bigger than you think. You can't even actually think of it. It's the embodied inconceivable. That line I used in my talk when I came last spring. And our awakened nature is more flexible and resilient than we think too. Wakefulness it's not what we think it is, because you can't think of it. And it's certainly not us being perfected or purified. It's not a perfected or purified existence. And it's definitely not precious. Well, some people want to make spirituality this kind of precious. But it is full and overflowing with grace. That riverbed can hold a lot. So just as an example, we're going to come back to this, because I'm not speaking very much about the very difficult things that happen around us in life that impact us. I'm not going to talk about that so much, but the part about taking the backward step and turning our light inward, let me say it in different ways. If by chance your own mind and heart might seem to turn against you, you ever feel that? Manifesting a kind of inner enemy or critic or judge? Anybody have one of those?
You're lacking one.
We want to know. It would be wise to turn toward these parts with curiosity and a real willingness to come to know them, not dismiss or try to destroy them. This is the reverent understanding that they are the merciful messengers of the awakened one. They're showing us who we are and who we have become and how we actually live as we practice, and where we're caught and where we're limited, and how we create and maintain unnecessary suffering. They're teachers. Spoken in more archaic language, it says, who use devices to emancipate us from blind tendencies, produced and accumulated upon ourselves by our own egoistic delusion and attachment through countless cycles of space and time. That's the words we said. And so these may actually feel like others who use devices. But by unblending, and when we sit in zazen, we're essentially putting things down. When we unblending from our immersion in the virtual reality of our habitual and automatic mind states, we begin to see what's unfolding, rather than continually being enfolded. We see what's unfolding instead of continually being enfolded. We see what is unfolding. You getting it? Instead of continually being enfolded within the self-generated internal experience that we think is reality. We come to know how we habitually organize experience from this kind of limited awareness, and how we call this experience that we generate and the way we organize, we call it reality. That's the way I see the world. And we defend it, even at times like we'd almost rather die. We kind of see that happening. We come together as spiritual friends and engage in, we call it assisted self-discovery and mindfulness. It's a great way to talk about spiritual friendship. Assisted self-discovery and mindfulness, which supports this realization, this kind of release. And we come to discover that there are no sworn enemies persecuting us inside. What's the title of Dick Schwartz's last book is No Bad Parts? There are no bad parts, there's no bad guys in there. There are only partial perspectives, limited beliefs, managers and protectors. Exiles walked away because they carry so much pain they could overwhelm the system, or because they're so terrified of being hurt again. They're protected, rightfully so. These are all useful. They're not bad things. But if they aren't understood fully, they can be your entire reality. So pause here, take a breath. As you exhale, beings are numberless. As you inhale, parts are numberless. On the outside, exhale, beings are numberless. On the inside, parts are numberless. First part of the Bodhisattva vow. That first line. Here's the second line. Delusions are endless. Confusion and contractions may always be triggered. Even as we awaken, even as we open to a larger container, delusions are inexhaustible. This stuff may always happen. But we know how to work with it, we know how to meet it. You affirmed that earlier on. Third line, Bodhisattva vow. Dharma gates are boundless. Opportunities to learn from the present moment never cease. There's no easy street where it finally stops, no get out of jail free. It's like you're going to keep not just having problems, I don't mean that. You're going to have life. And that's, each breath is a Dharma gate, each moment. There's endless potential. Because the Dharma is manifesting as your life, and as you wake up to that, then you are not only more free, you are more freeing in the world. And last, Buddha's way is unsurpassable. At the heart of every part is a Buddha. Every single part of you, every contraction, every critic, if it was freed from its burdens, what would be at the middle of it? A jewel, a pearl. It would be Buddha. That is crazy revolutionary to say that and to realize that. Because there's nothing but Buddha. Now it's not manifesting for countless, however through time, space, but as you begin to open and appreciate these things that you think are the bad people attacking you, and go, oh, there's an opening to emancipation in there if we could help them relax. And realizing that is the way of compassion. So you still following me? Okay. I'm going to take a side venture for a second, and we're going to talk about Kanzeon, which is in Japan, that's the name of Avalokiteshvara, Bodhisattva of Compassion, or Kuan Yin in China. Because sometimes female, sometimes male, it's an archetypal expression of compassion. In the old stories, this is really old archetypal stuff. In the old stories, it's usually seen as a female figure. Kanzeon lives on an island in the middle of the ocean. This is your bedtime story, but don't look so good. And she can hear the ocean all around her, vast ocean of birth and death. And she sits on her island with tears in her eyes, with a deep understanding. She knows suffering as suffering, and the true nature of suffering as it is. She understands that for the constructed self, there is no escape from suffering. But she also knows something about this thing we call the self. Because from where she sits, it's the whole universe. The living, the dying, the beyond living and dying. Although her eyes are full of tears, she understands and goes beyond the suffering. And she can see the joy in its release. She sees the fullness of being right alongside the suffering. It ends up being not so different. This is one of the keys to what Tori Zenji is pointing to. The Kan and Kanzeon is the term that you would, in Sanskrit, you would translate as vipassana, insight and clear seeing. And shikantaza sitting, which is the second part of the name, tanzeon, is stopping and seeing. So we have to stop. And one of the ways we do that is we come to a retreat and put things down, put a lot of our life down, at least in the mornings and the evenings, in an integrated intensive. So we can see and hear more clearly. And that seeing and hearing more clearly is prajna, is wisdom. And the act of doing this is compassion, both for ourselves and others. Sitting one period of zazen, like you're going to do once I finish running my mouth here, just a little while. Sitting one period of zazen is abandoning our usual way of life for one bit. And it's not trying to get to that better life that you hope is out there somewhere. It's sitting in your life, our life, this life, but setting everything else down. And we stop and we make an effort to just sit here and breathe. And maybe you've noticed it's not too easy just to sit here. Because there's so much we have to put down. And even though we think we've put a lot of it down, it's like you get up for kinhin and it's like, what is that? There's something you're still carrying, right? Because there's so much that comes up. All your fears and terrors and shame and all that, and all your desires and loves and longing. And then we project it onto each other, into the practices and the teachers and the teachings and disappointments and pain. But you are making the effort, even though it's hard. And you said in the beginning that you're actually expressing the bodhisattva qualities and you're doing the bodhisattva practices. And I heard you take the vow. This is putting things down. But even if we can't seem to do it, we keep trying. That's what Suzuki Roshi would always speak about in terms of constancy. Just continuing. And just like the apology statement in the head student ceremony earlier today, where the classical statement is, I'm so ashamed. But we ask them not to say it, not to claim they're ashamed, which we understand the roots of that in Japanese culture and the way it was translated probably. But you heard us change it maybe. I said, I vow my profound limitations, but I will keep on trying. So it's not turning away from what that line points to. It's just not saying in order to open to realization, I don't have to take on shame. But I'll keep on trying. You know, maybe we can't actually do it. Maybe no one can actually do it. It's not something we do. This is where we have to rely on vowing instead of doing. Yes, we do with all our might. That only goes so far. Without a vow, you're just going to be working hard for the rest of your life. We can't be successful in the ordinary sense. But you can be committed to slowing down and stopping and putting some things down. And to keep on no matter what. To come back to the breath and the posture in this moment. Come back to be with each other. And when we do that, we start to see, and we'll have a little insight, and we'll have that warm-hearted feeling, some clear seeing like Kanzeon. And when we do, we come to the next part of Torizenji. The one that starts down in each moment. Okay, together. If all that happens, then on each moment's flash, there will grow a lotus flower, and on each lotus flower will be revealed perfection, unceasingly manifest as our life, just as it is, right here and right now. We'll finally he heard some good news. And what we discover is like really simple. It's really quite simple. We see that thoughts are just thoughts, and feelings are just feelings. How do we get so obsessed with them? How do we get so upset about it all? They come and they go like the waves of the ocean, like life and death. And I'm not talking about ignoring what we feel or think. I'm not talking about that at all. We don't have to be obsessed with them, like believe them and identify with them like it's me. With the space in which they move, they require care like everything else, but they're not the whole of reality. You know, in Hawaii, I'll stand on the bluffs above the beach and I can see the waves approaching, and I can see a long way from the beach that I tend to go to on the west end. If the day is clear, I can see Oahu, which is almost 50 miles. You can just see it right there. And so you see these waves, not just ocean waves. You see the energy waves. You can see the sets way out sometimes. So it's literally a sine wave of energy moving in water. And I see them come precisely as they do because of the causes and conditions in the vast ocean beyond which I can see that make it just right to be that way at that moment. But they can't do anything else. And this is the universe, and this is how it goes. And yourself comes and goes with conditions. And this is Kanzian, sitting on her island in the midst of the ocean, listening to the cries of the world, looking. And she sees the true reality of the self, which is what her name means in Japan. Japanese is seeing clearly. And what she sees is what Dogen talks about, not with eyes, but with her whole body. Remember that koan is a whole nother talk, but why does Avalokiteshvara have so many hands and eyes? You know, it's the whole body. We sit in zazen not with our mind, but with our whole body. With the aches, with the pains, with the complaints, with the crazy mind, with the broken heart. Because we're going to see our lives, hear what's going on, not with our cognitive intelligence, but with our whole body. So in zazen, we pay attention, and we bring our whole body and pay attention to our posture. Not because it'll make you a good Zen student, but because it helps you focus and put everything else down. It's not our mind sitting there. And this whole body sees that the whole experience is empty, which means full of everything, not vacated. When we stop and put everything down, we're actualized by the myriad things. Remember, Dogen? It's like, oh, this is everything. Not me, this, not I. This is everything. Right here. Everything is teaching the Dharma all the time, including your sitting zazen and the person sitting next to you, who may be crying or sneezing, who may be fidgety or really still. And we just open our hearts and minds and our eyes and our ears and receive it. The prajna, our wisdom that we're seeking, is the reality we're living in all the time. It's in every act of perception. Seeing something, hearing something, feeling something. It's in the rocks and the floorboards and the incense and the doors. It's in everything we do in our practice. It's right there in our the simple way that we come together like we did tonight and be kind to each other. Pay attention and live your life. That's everyday practice, which extends to our final aspiration, the last bit. So now he offers this aspiration. Now that he's told you what he learned, what he realized, the tough news about what practice is, how it manifests as the lotus. And then he says, together, may
we extend this mind to all beings, so that we in the world together may attain maturity in the wisdom of the awakened life.
Yes, please, I'll take some of that. May we extend this mind to all beings. He doesn't say, may we all wake up and get ours and go home. He says, may we extend this mind, may we extend our way of meeting the world with our whole body. And as we do with our whole, then that's the offering. So that we in the world together, we chant, I vow, we vow, this vow. Me and the world together may attain maturity in the wisdom of the awakened life. We realize our fullness. It's actually our heritage. You know, when we have these lineage documents, it's beautiful because we see the flow of the teachings and how it circulates through us. But it's also reminding us this is our heritage. Not the Zen tradition, not only that, but like awakening. Nothing is withheld. It's freely given, and on the outside of the Kichimiyaku, you'll see in Jukai on Sunday, there it says freely given. For a reason. In preparing, I came across this quote, which I hadn't seen in a long time, from our friend Peter Hershot, from whom we learned so much. And you know, he has a certain kind of languaging. But listen to this. This is our business, but we're in the Bodhisattva business. The business of a Bodhisattva is not to disseminate information about nirvana and samsara. Even though I'm up here with a computer and talking. The business of the Bodhisattva is not to disseminate information about nirvana and samsara. To deliver awe-inspiring gospels of enlightenment, we do our best to. Or even to convey sentient beings to the nether shore. But to enter into unbound and chartless concourse. Unbound and chartless concourse. And in that process, we might share some information. We might give some good Dharma talks or hear some. We might help each other out. But that's not the business of the Bodhisattva. The business is to enter unbound relationality, and chartless means you don't know where it's going to go. But this is the territory. And that's what we realize. We give you a chart called a schedule, a seat, when to meet for practice. We give you the illusion, you know, so hang on to that. So let's do this week. Let's enter into unbound chartless concourse and relationality, because that's the punchline to this whole thing. And so in just a moment, we're going to begin sitting for a while, and Peg will begin seeing some folks, and we'll continue that rhythm throughout the week. And I want to say a few things about this, and certainly chime in if you want. In our way at Appamada, in the past, we've traditionally seen every participant during the retreat, and often more than once. We won't have double duty here, and you have to understand this is part of the retreat. I'm going to say it in a cheeky way, but excuse me. Practice discussion is not like an optional activity, like a luxury add-on at the spa. You know, like I'm going to go there, and then I can also get a facial, and I can do practice discussion. No, that's part of the retreat. It's like a requirement. It's part of what it means to be in a retreat. It's not a requirement. It's a part of what it means to be in a retreat, to meet with the teacher. And it's not some sort of demand for a performance. And you're not being sent to the principal's office. Oh, it's your turn, oh God. You know? It's an opportunity to meet in chartless concourse. Because a lot of times you don't know what the hell you're going to do, right? You don't have a question. You don't know what's going to happen. You walk in and and then you sit down and something happens. And the confidence that one can gain by that something happening in a situation where you're not sure, but you have faith in the teacher and the teacher has faith in you, that's the mysterious Awaken Life. So we sent out a schedule, give you a chart, so you'll know when to meet. And the meetings, as you can see, probably on the chart, won't last any longer than 15 minutes. We need to make sure we attend to our time so we get to see everybody. Do not worry about having a specific question or needing to present something special, or certainly not Zen-like to us. It's not a performance. Come and be present with who you are and what you are. And remember that line says, may we extend this mind to all beings. Come with the notion that you're going to extend yourself. And that's what we're going to come with. We're going to extend ourselves. But not so you just receive it, you extend yourself. This is a two-way street. The enactment and embodiment of chartless concourse relationality, which is the Bodhisattva way, which looks like loving kindness and compassion, sympathetic joy and equanimity. It flows like generosity and morality and all those things. Vitality, patience, focus, wisdom. We have this longing to free all beings, and to free all beings. To meet all the delusional things that happen, and meet all delusions. Step through every Dharma gate that's offered, to go through every Dharma gate that's available. And to embody the way of awakening, which is Buddha's way, which is here, this is it. So that's probably enough. So you're still in the right place.
So I would say, be aware of your appointment time and be there on time. So that means if your time is coming up, sit in the study so that you're right there, because because of the number of people, and because we're in an integrated intensive where we don't have as many hours of the day to see people, we have to be very mindful of how we use that time.
And those of you online are there, so pay attention to when you might be your time.
The monitor is going to just whip you into a connection room.
You're going to be swept away.
And then they're going to whip you right out again. So, so we can see the next person. But we really, originally we had thought we would not see people one-on-one because there's so many people, and because we have such a small amount of time to see.
And it's so complex.
And it's so complex.
Online
people online, and some people are part-time, which is even more complicated. But we worked it out. But it does mean we have to be constrained. But we really do want to see you, each of you. So you don't, as he said, you don't have to have a question. It also means we're not going to have a long time for a long story. So focus on practice.
Not pre-ramble.
Focus on what's coming up for you, and we'll meet, right? We'll really meet. Okay.